Well, good morning to all of you. My name is Noel Hasagaba, and I serve as Deputy Executive Director at the Port of Long Beach. And it's my pleasure to welcome all of you to this very special funding recognition. Now, some of you might be at this site for the very first time, and you're probably wondering, am I in LA or in Long Beach? And the short answer is yes. You're within the city of Los Angeles, but you're also within the Port of Long Beach. And I think this epitomizes what we come to celebrate today. Not just the two ports coming together, but industry and labor, our state leaders, our legislative leaders coming together to recognize how important this project we celebrate is. By the way, this weather was ordered just for this event. It took 4 days of pounding rain to clear the skies. And if things go according to plan, you will also see a rainbow appear, and at the bottom of the rainbow, a pot of gold. As a backup, if that doesn't happen, we've got this big check. So keep your eyes open for the big check. Now today we're going to hear from partners who have collaborated to make this event possible, to make this project possible. And you'll understand why it's so important for this port complex, for our workforce and our competitiveness. The Goods Movement Training Campus is yet another forward-looking project, one that will be a major asset for our complex in the years ahead. We thank Governor Newsom and our state legislators for providing major funding for this project. And speaking of our legislators, we have several today. We're honored to have you here with us today. And in a moment, we're going to be hearing from all of them. And my colleague, Aveen Sharma from the Port of Los Angeles, and I will be introducing our speakers as they come up one by one. And before we do, I do want to recognize our harbor commissioners who are here. One from each port will be addressing the audience. Another, Bonnie Lowenthal, is here from the Port of Long Beach as well. So thank you very much. Aveen, my honor to present to you Aveen Sharma, Senior Director of Labor Relations and Government Affairs.
Thank you very much, Noel. As Noel mentioned, my name is Aveen Sharma. I'm the Senior Director of Labor Relations and Government Affairs for the Port of Los Angeles. And on the behalf of the Port of Los Angeles, I'd like to welcome you here today. And I also share in Noel's gratitude to our state legislators that are here today and to Governor Newsom as well. And I also would like to recognize Senator Bradford, who could not be here today, but was a strong partner with us as we sought this funding. So I'm going to briefly talk about a few firsts. First, I want to thank Noel and Alejandra and the rest of our Port of Long Beach colleagues, Stephanie and my Port of LA colleagues, the PMA, the ILWU, the California Workforce Development Board, and State Labor Secretary Stuart Knox. This group came together several weeks ago to plan this event, and thanks to them, we have the event here today. I've probably talked about puddles more in the last 36 hours than in the last few years, but I think we're good. It looks like everyone got here dry and safe, so that's great to hear. There is one other person I have to thank who unfortunately is no longer with us. You know, in terms of first, the first time I had heard about this campus was from a conversation I had about 6 years ago with then labor leader and Port of Los Angeles Harbor Commission Vice President Dave Arian. When I met with Dave talked to me about the role the port authorities need to play in our community. That he said back in his day, someone could finish up in high school, go work in one of the metal shops here in the community because those metal shops were providing parts and components for the shipyards and the canneries. He told me those days are gone. It's up to the port authorities to look at how we can help our communities and how we can provide for jobs. And what he told me then is we need a facility so we can have people in our community who want to train, can get the training they need to get a good, well-paying job, and that also does support the industry because it creates a pipeline of interested people. And that conversation was 6 years ago, and there's not a day that goes by I don't think about that. So I couldn't stand up here without acknowledging Dave's leadership. So to Dave Arian. In another first, thanks to our champions in Sacramento for the funding, once we complete this campus, this will be the nation's first goods movement training campus. It's a facility that will focus on longshore, trucking, and warehousing opportunities and occupations. And that's important to talk about, because when we think about our goods movement workforce, this project today shows that the state and the two ports are thinking about the workforce from the water to the warehouse. And every segment of that workforce is important. And what this campus will do is it'll provide a safe training environment, because our terminals are active terminals can be a dangerous work environment. I'm the son of a warehouse worker, so know all too well the dangers of a busy shop floor and warehouse floor. So our workforce needs a place where they can train in a safe, secure environment and focus on the training that they need. This campus will also shows that the ports are dedicated to our goals of zero emission equipment. Both the ports of LA and Long Beach, through our Clean Air Action Plan, have committed to go to zero emission by 2030. And that transition cannot take place without this campus. This campus is necessary, so as that transition takes place, we're focused on the workforce and the workers, and that they can train on the equipment, some of it which hasn't even been invented yet, but they'll be able to train in the state of the environment. And we also have to think about how this campus will then help those businesses, those small truck yards and other businesses that we see along the 710, the 110 corridors, the 91 corridors. They won't have the resources to provide training on state-of-the-art equipment. And that's where this campus is a public good from the state, from the two ports, to provide a place to get folks trained on the technologies of tomorrow. And so if you can provide a safe environment, if you could provide training on skills that are necessary for tomorrow, then we get back to Dave's vision of having our community go into careers that will be meaningful careers, and not just dead-end jobs, but careers that can sustain a family. And so, you know, my final first, which I don't think you can have a final first, but I'll just say that anyways. My final first is to introduce our first speaker today. I first met our first speaker in his office several years ago, and I still remember in that conversation, he talked to me about the dignity of work. He talked to me about the importance of work and community safety, and I'm gonna paraphrase what he told me then, but he said, nothing takes a bullet off the street like a job. And I've always remembered him for that, and I've always appreciated his leadership, and there's no greater example of his commitment to our port communities than this event here today. And with that, I'd like to introduce Assemblymember Mike Gibson. Thank you.
First of all, let me say thank you very much. Good morning, buenos dias to each and every one of you. I'm going to try to do this speech without my papers blowing away. So that's going to be the task. But I want to say thank you very much. For those of you who don't know who I am, my name is Mike Gibson. And I have the distinct pleasure and privilege to represent the people of the 65th Assembly District. And if you are wondering where you are in Wilmington, which is part of my assembly district that I'm absolutely proud and thrilled to represent. So I want to thank you. Not only do I represent Wilmington, but Watts, Willowbrook, where I was born and raised, Compton, half of Carson, Long Beach, North Long Beach, Harbor Gateway, North and South, Harbor City, Wilmington, and also San Pedro. I want to thank my colleagues who have joined us today. We have our mayor, Rex Richardson, but also my esteemed colleagues from both the Assembly and also the Senate. So thank you very much. We have council members, commissioners, and directors. Thank you all for being here and gathering in this space and in this time. Certainly through the hard work, and it certainly has taken a hard work. But let me, before I go there, I want to just talk about Dave. Because I'm a church boy and grew up in church, without a vision, the people perish. Dave Aaron had a vision for the space we're in today, to have this training center. And certainly he has brought us all into this vision. I've worked very closely with him when I was an assembly member and went to his celebration of life. And so to have us come together to recognize and elevate his voice, and also this space that we're in. Certainly his vision has come to fruition. $110 million is no small task. It certainly has taken a collective body that has shared into this vision that bring us all together. And I am so grateful, one, to have the support of our governor, and also the commitment of both houses to get $110 million. So can you do me a favor? Can you celebrate our governor and our senators and assembly members by putting your hands together like you lost your mind and give them a round of applause for their hard work and their dedication? As was said, this is the first of its kind to be a national training campus, to be the first in the United States of America, to making sure that we train individuals for the emerging technology, but also making sure that the individuals have the training that they need in order to keep this port alive and thriving and growing. California and the ports, Long Beach and Los Angeles, keeps America moving forward. It's the economic engine that keeps food on the table, clothes on our children's backs, and a roof over our family's head. Gene, it is absolutely the responsibility of government to come together, and this is a great example of government coming together, working together, and making sure that we leave no person behind. I want to pause for a moment and thank the men and women of IOW. Can you put your hands together for the men and women of IOW for being courageous, and also for PMA, again, the Port of Los Angeles and Long Beach. I am thrilled. When I woke up this morning, I was excited to be able to brush my teeth and get ready to come here today, to gather and also to present to the world this $110 million check. This is a game changer. Not only for, and I see Dr. Dorado in the audience who provides great leadership to Harbor Community College. This is a game changer for our relationship for this entire region, where people will be trained. People will be trained in terms of working the port, but also to be able to have the kinds of jobs that will change not only their lives, but also their families' lives in this community. And so I'm going to just cut my comments and leave it at that point. This is absolutely exciting. I see our lobbyists who've been into my office day and night to making sure that we had everything, all of our checks and balances in place, to making sure that this is part of our process in the legislature, to making sure that it was part of our budget conversation. And I'm just extremely excited here. And I want to say to our city council member, Tim McCosker, thank you very much for your leadership, because as you were on the campaign trail, you were talking about this and making sure that if there's anything that you could do, that you were there to make sure it happens. And again, I want to say thank you very much for being here, and to my team, the best is still yet to come. So thank you very much, and have a great day.
Thank you very much, Assemblymember Gibson. Appreciate that passion, that vision. If there's anyone else here who shares that and can match it on the Senate side, it's our next speaker. Looking out for the interests of the workforce, making sure that we have the workforce of the future trained today has been a priority of hers, not just in the Senate, but even from her days on the City Council. And I've had the good fortune of knowing and working with our Senator, Lena Gonzalez.
Right. Good morning. And I also express my sincere gratitude to Assemblymember Gibson for being an incredible partner and starting us off with incredible enthusiasm as well. But I'm also so glad to be here today as the Chair of Transportation and the Chair and Select Committee on Ports and Goods Movement to stand with you today and my hardworking colleagues, Senators Durazo, Bradford, Assemblymember Gibson, Carrillo, and Lowenthal, to celebrate the $110 million investment. And it's been mentioned before, this is no small feat from the state of California for the Goods Movement Training Campus. These are the colleagues, I will tell you, both in policy and in budget, who've been the voices uplifting and prioritizing our Long Beach and Los Angeles ports and ensuring that in every step of the way, as the fourth largest economy that we call ourselves in California, that our investments speak to our values. We know that we can receive our fair share of federal funding if we can push together, all together as California leaders. This is important for the Goods Movement Training Campus because this investment will ensure that we remain a few things: globally competitive while also lowering emissions and protecting our environment, and ensuring at every step of the way that our workforce builds their skills and that we also value their expertise and they remain prioritized along the way. This evolving supply chain environment and new green economy will take us all, every single one of us. And I thank, again, our brothers and sisters from the ILWU, President Ponce de Leon, and incoming President Gary Herrera, Pacific Maritime Association, our harbor commissioners, the women at the forefront as well, President Weissman from Long Beach, Lucia Moreno Linares, of course, Bonnie Lowenthal from Long Beach as well, our executive directors, Cordero and Soroka, as well as Long Beach Mayor Robert Garcia. Look at me. Rex Richardson. It's going to take a little while to get over there. Long Beach Mayor Rex Richardson, who I'm so proud of as a dear, dear friend. Let's give him a big round of applause. And our LA Councilman, Tim McCosker. Together, we're going to make this happen. And together, we're going to make sure that our California ports remain competitive and are successful every step of the way with our brothers and sisters in labor. Thank you so very much. And I'll pass it back to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Gonzalez. I talked about wanting to, that I was going to speak about first today. Just on a personal note, a couple of weeks ago, I was up in Sacramento and had the opportunity to testify for the very first time in front of our next speaker. So it's an honor for me to introduce Senator Durazo. Thank you.
Yeah, you got to bring it way down. Okay. Well, great. Good morning. Buenos dias. It's great to be here, and especially with a team of legislators who work really as a team to make things happen, not only in our immediate districts, but big things that are really going to help all of California and, frankly, the whole country. And I want to do ditto to everyone that was mentioned here as leaders that led to this. And I, too, think back to Dave and his vision and all the pieces that he knew were an important part. Those are the pieces we're trying to remain loyal to today. Yet California is in the midst of an industry-changing moment. Infrastructure, manufacturing, and sustainability. A commitment to sustainable infrastructure means that we are committed to working people, to their families, and their communities. As chair of our budget committee on state investment in infrastructure and transportation, we worked hard last year to double our state investments in public transportation and infrastructure, because I know that we will not mitigate the climate crisis without addressing, one, how working people move to work, move to school, move to doctor's appointments, and the people who move our goods within this country and, frankly, for the benefit and throughout the world. In 2022, my committee, our state legislatures, and the governor signed $110 million for the state-of-the-art training facility. The investment in a supply chain workforce campus will bring much-needed opportunity for people who don't get that opportunity to have a good job, to be able to raise their families. That means new workers will get access to high-paid careers at the port. Workers will get upskilled and reskilled to meet the needs of the industry and stay ahead of it. Good quality jobs in longshore that already exist, but we got to create more good quality jobs where they don't exist, like in warehousing and in trucking. Our state partnerships with the ports will make sure that this investment results in good jobs in our surrounding communities. We're going to put enforceable language to make sure that our tax dollars create good quality jobs and training. So it's a huge accomplishment to celebrate this day. Thank you so much for including me. And just to let you know that we're going to keep on fighting, because there's other pieces to this. There's the Port and Freight Infrastructure Program. There's port operational improvements that need to be made. Even things like making sure that we increase our capacity for truck drivers to get their license. There's so many things that are connected. We're going to keep on fighting to make those all work for our communities. Muchas gracias.
Thank you, Senator Durazo, for your leadership. We really appreciate that. Our last year, when our colleagues in Long Beach and the Port of LA were talking to basically anyone that would listen in Sacramento, we're talking about this campus, the importance of campus, working with Assemblymember Gibson and working with Senator Gonzalez on trying to secure funding. We had an opportunity to join a Zoom call with the next speaker I'm going to introduce, and I remember that call clearly because in that call she kept asking about the workers that would receive training, what sort of training they would receive, who would benefit from this campus. Where I was going to explain the structure of the campus, she was most focused on the participants of this campus. And so with that, I'd like to introduce Assemblymember Carrillo. Thank you.
Good morning and buenos dias. When I was first asked, Assemblymember, you represent East LA and Northeast LA. Why are you interested in the ports? And I said, I ordered a sofa that has yet to arrive, so it's somewhere in a container out there. But all jokes aside, Senator Durazo and I have the immense pleasure of representing the Northeast LA communities, but I'll share a little bit about Northeast and why the ports are important in the conversation about the goods movement. We are surrounded by the 2, the 5, the 10, the 60, the 110, the 134, and the 710 freeways. And the 2 freeway, I believe I said. Everything that comes out of the ports moves through our community to find itself to a warehouse in the Inland Empire. And so all of that transportation of goods goes from here, from the Port of Long Beach and the Port of Los Angeles, through the heart of the city of Los Angeles, and then delivered to our constituents across LA County and beyond. And so what happens here impacts all of us. And so the conversation around jobs, the conversation about our future is impactful to all of us. And I have the immense pleasure and opportunity to be the budget chair of Budgets of 4 State Administration, which ultimately helps facilitate the movement of funding related to what's important to us and ensuring that our budget is a reflection of our values. And as the good movement industry mobilizes to meet all of California's climate change goals, focusing on decarbonization and the transition to zero emission equipment, we absolutely cannot leave workers behind. And when we're talking about workers, we're talking about family members. We're talking about the people of these communities that make Long Beach, that make the Port of Los Angeles communities thrive and be successful. And as both the Port of LA and the Port of Long Beach continue to devote their operations to human-operated, zero-emission cargo handling equipment, this project ushers in a potential for our Los Angeles region to provide an example for the rest of the state and the rest of the country. But this transition needs to be worker-centered. Within the good movement's history, it is critical for California to ensure that our labor force has all the tools necessary to be successful in operating a new longshore trucking, warehousing, and logistic occupations that ultimately impact families across the board. This is why my office was proud in advancing the $110 million budget allocation for the Good Movement's Transition Campus, which will be right here. Big round of applause to all of you and all of your advocacy for making that a reality. With the leadership and the expertise of the California Workforce Development Program, this campus will serve as a public good to help encourage more employers in this industry to be high-road employers who focus on job quality, job equity, and ultimately sustainability. And I look forward to ensuring its success. Unas pocas palabras en español. Mi nombre es Wendy Carrillo, muy orgullosa de estar aquí representando el Distrito 52, que incluye las comunidades del noreste y el este de Los Ángeles. Tanto el puerto de Los Ángeles como el puerto de Long Beach continúan dedicando sus operaciones de cargos sin emisiones cero y también operadores de trabajadores para el futuro. Este proyecto abre las posibilidades que nuestra región quede con un ejemplo a través del Estado y a través de la nación. Yo represento una parte de Los Ángeles que incluye el 2, el 5, el 10, el 60, el 110, 134 y el 710 freeways, que manejan y mueven todo lo que pasa aquí del puerto de Los Ángeles y del puerto de Long Beach a través del condado de Los Ángeles para que pueda llegar a nuestras familias. Pero lo más importante es reconocer que son los trabajadores que hacen todo esto posible. Es el ejemplo que podemos dar a través del condado, a través del estado y a través de la nación para tener trabajos dignos, con equidad y viendo hacia el futuro. Todo eso es posible con la colaboración del concilio, del alcalde, del senado, del gobernador y especialmente todos ustedes, nuestros amigos en los sindicatos laborales, para que al último día son los trabajadores que al fin del día tienen los recursos necesarios para poder salir adelante. Esta inversión de $110 millones para este proyecto es una inversión y también un dicho para lo que se puede ser posible cuando hay colaboración y cuando ponemos nuestros valores a través del día para la importancia del futuro de nuestras familias. Así que muchas gracias por la invitación, por toda la colaboración con el gobernador y con nosotros en la legislatura para hacer esto posible, y al fin del día es una muestra de lo que es posible cuando el presupuesto tiene también nuestros valores para familias trabajadoras a través del Estado. Muchas gracias. Thank you very much.
Muchas gracias, asambleísta Carrillo. Bien dicho. Thank you very much for your leadership and your words, Assemblyman. We appreciate it. I hope your sofa arrived. Okay. Our next speaker may be new to Sacramento and in his role as the Assembly, but I can tell you that even before day one, he recognized the tremendous value of goods movement, not just to our region, but to our state. And so far, he's been just a stalwart and a champion in making sure that the important issues of goods movement are being advanced in Sacramento, joining this all-star team of legislators. It's my pleasure to introduce Josh Lowenthal.
I will not be speaking in Spanish, but I will be doing interpretive dance, if anybody. Thank you so much. It is truly an honor to be here today. It is inspiring to be around so many movers and shakers here, and exciting to be with colleagues who've done such good work to get us to this place. Labor, goods movement, elected officials, public agencies, all of you together, coming together for this moment. The amount of support here from my colleagues and elected officials demonstrates that the San Pedro Bay ports, they don't just have champions in their own representatives, but that it transcends district boundaries and is truly a jewel for the entire state of California. I wish that I could have been there last year to vote on this, as a matter of fact. This $110 million just goes to show how important this is to our entire state's economy and the confidence that we have in this partnership. This facility, it's a facility that's built looking towards our future to ensure a highly trained, skilled workforce has the tools they need to keep our ports competitive and to keep good-paying jobs across the region. And let's not forget that those good-paying jobs, they don't just affect the people that directly have them. They affect the entire local economy. They affect the mom and pop shops in town. They affect our schools. They affect everything about locally that we have. It is truly, truly a gift that we have here. Crane jobs, trucking, warehouse trainings, the forward-looking, forward-thinking jobs here in the San Pedro Bay ports are all going to have workers who are trained inside this center. And let me also say that in Sacramento, we're very much attuned to what's happening down here and the effect that it has throughout our state's economy. As a matter of fact, I asked for very recently and received from the Speaker a select committee on automation so that we can analyze and assess the impacts of automation are having as we move into new technologies into the next century. Ladies and gentlemen, this is what happens when we bring public and private sectors together, when we bring our labor partners to the table. Thank you all for being here. Thank you all for having me. Excited about the bright future we have here in our ports.
Excellent. That was the best interpretive dance I've ever seen. Right? Thank you very much, Assemblymember Lowenthal. Now it's my great pleasure to introduce to you the Mayor of Long Beach, Rex Richardson. And let me just say this as he walks up. He's not 100 days in his term, but boy, he's on fire. And he's shaking things up, and we so much appreciate his leadership on goods movement and ports here in Long Beach.
All right, let's hear it for all these incredible state legislators for stepping up and delivering this incredible, enthusiastic center. Let's hear it for our state legislators. We all serve as one team. Lena, it's all good. We talk all the time. It's a simple mistake. I just want to share my enthusiastic support about this goods movement training facility. It's important to our city. We know that many families depend on the jobs connected to the Port of Long Beach and the Port of Los Angeles. 575,000 jobs in our region are directly connected to our port. And when you expand to the state, you're more than 705,000 jobs. Now, to us, it's important that we get it right. We have big challenges over the next decade, and there are 705,000 families depending on us to make sure that we work together. And so what today really represents, to me, is what's possible when you see people come together. State government, local government, ports, industry, labor, working together for that shared goal of a prosperous future for all of us. When I think about what we have to overcome over the next decade, this project is right on time. We know over the next decade, we stand to benefit from incredible investments from our White House by way of the Bipartisan Infrastructure Act, and very soon, the Inflation Reduction Act. These are historic investments in our communities that, like we've never seen before. And by investing in training, we will ensure that we have the workforce for the future that is prepared to deliver the infrastructure and to continue to make sure that our ports are efficient and our ports are well run and well trained and well managed. I also think about what example we set. This project will be done in 5 years. 5 years from 2023 is 2028 when we host the Olympics in Southern California. Los Angeles and Long Beach will be the home. We host 6 events just in Long Beach. This gives us an opportunity to demonstrate what we represent as a community. It's not just the world turning its cameras to Long Beach. We get to show that we are a community that believes in working together and putting forward a clean environment where people can breathe, where we're improving air quality standards, where we're making sure that people have a seat at the table and an opportunity to thrive, that we made the investments to overcome big challenges of our community, and that we are being an example for the world. That's what's at stake here. And that's why I'm fortunate and proud to be a part of this coalition, to ensure that we deliver this project in a way that is meaningful, and timely. We know that our residents are counting on us to get it right. So I stand here as Mayor Rex Richardson, and I look forward to continuing to champion and support this project in the years to come. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mayor Richardson. Speaking of strong leadership and a clear vision and having been in office for just about 100 days, we also have that on our Los Angeles side. I'm going to introduce our next speaker, but I'll say while he's only been in office for, I think, about 100 days, is that right? 102 days, thank you. He's been a long champion of the Port of Los Angeles and our communities here. And as we move forward on this project, I can't think of a better person in our City Hall to be an advocate and to speak for this project than Councilman Tim McCosker. Councilman.
Tim McCosker, Councilman of the 1-5. It's actually been 102 days in office, but it doesn't feel like a day over 101. I am really, really honored as a Councilman of the 1-5 to represent Watts and Harbor Gateway and San Pedro and Harbor City and the beautiful community of Wilmington, where we are today. And I just found out today that I represent Wilmington, but because this is Port Lands, I also represent the Port of Long Beach. So I'll take that on. So I want to invoke the Durazo ditto and just ditto everything everybody said. These are great, great, great words. I really appreciate you know, labor coming together with the assembly, coming together with local government, coming together with the PMA. We are all in this together. Particularly, we all have to be in this together as the combined port complex in the San Pedro Bay, Long Beach and LA. Very, very, very important. The world, yes, let's hear it for that. I'm really cognizant of the fact that the world has changed. I mean, I was very fortunate as a kid over 40 years ago to have a casual card before the lottery, when you could go to the unemployment office and get a casual card. And I had a chance in summer days to work the docks. And it wasn't a lot of work, but it was great work. And I threw bananas and I shoveled coal. And those were the days when the job was hard work, but sort of easy to understand. As my dad would say, you're really just fighting gravity with your back. And the world has changed. The job is different. And as the job becomes more and more different, as we protect the environment, as we must be sure that we're protecting great jobs while we're protecting the environment. Those two things are not mutually exclusive. And as the senator said, Senator Durazo said, not just protecting the great jobs that exist today, but creating new jobs and building up new opportunities. Because while goods movement is important for the United States and for the world, and making sure that SOFA arrives eventually, it is critically important in the 1-5 to San Pedro and Wilmington and Harbor City and the Gateway and in Watts, because without great jobs, people don't make their rent. People don't pay their mortgages. They don't buy pizza. They don't get their kids braces. And so it's critically important to us that we lean in, as we have, and I'm so grateful to the Assembly, and I'm so grateful for your partnership, as we lean in and make sure that we are training women and men for the future of this work. And this is a great investment, but I also want to call out that right now, this very minute, out at Pier 400, we're driving pile on the M&R facility, which is also a piece of this work. We are driving pile on an M&R facility that is going to make sure that we're continuing to train the women and the men on our docks to be able to pull home that paycheck, to stay in this community. So thank you very much for your partnership with the ILWU. Thank you to everybody for having us here today. I'm so very grateful to represent the 1-5 and so grateful to be included in your company.
Thank you very much for your words and for your leadership, Councilmember McCosker. Much appreciated. And now we've heard from our state legislators, we've heard from our city leaders. Now we're going to pivot and we're going to hear from our labor and industry leaders. But before we do, I do want to recognize another elected official who wears two important hats and relate directly to what we celebrate today. And that's Vivian Malauulu. Vivian Malauulu is on the Long Beach Board of Trustees, but she is also an officer at local ILWU 13. So thank you for being here, Vivian, as well. At this time, it's my pleasure, speaking of ILWU Local 13, it's my pleasure and honor to introduce to you the president of Local 13, and that is Ramon Ponce de Leon. Where's Ramon? There he is. Okay, excellent. I just want to say that it's an absolute pleasure to work with the ILWU team. I mean, as much as we want to celebrate all the work up in Sacramento here locally, but the collaboration that the ILWU has demonstrated in getting us to this point has been just unparalleled, and we appreciate it.
Thank you, Noel. Thank you. Thank you for those kind words. Good morning. Well, I stand here not by myself, because ILWU, it's an injury to one is an injury to all is our model. And I am, my term is ending. We have term limits. We are very democratic, especially in Local 13. No one gets to sit in the seat. It's as everybody knows, it's a pretty powerful seat for a labor person to be sitting in, and we make sure it's democratic and it takes care of people. Gary Herrera's president-elect. It's going to go from coach to coach. Congratulate him, working forward. We are humbled and thankful and grateful for the governor, the state legislature, and everybody involved, the ports, to put this thing together. You know, something doesn't happen unless you roll up your sleeves and you do it. And you've proven to labor, to the people, that you're concerned about jobs, because there's been always this thing, and we're supportive, but it's always about the environment and the climate change. And it's never equality when it talks about jobs. It's okay, just forget the jobs. Well, if there's no jobs, we're in the streets. We got to have jobs, and those jobs have to be equal to the justification of the environmental safety and the climate change push going forward. This whole nation, there should be a national strategy that not only for environmental needs, but for economic and environmental needs. People need to be working in jobs. And this state legislature, our port directors and their staffs have supported that. And we are in the front line showing the rest of the nation this is how we do it. Bring that cargo back here. And by the way, where's Correo? Where's Assembly? Your sofa got diverted back east. We're going to need it back here. Bring your cargo back here. Right? Bring it to LA Long Beach. West Coast, best coast. Okay? Now, we talk about rolling up our sleeves. Dave Aaron and has had the vision. But until you roll the sleeves up, nothing's going to happen. What was the catalyst? I'll tell you what the catalyst was for this. I want to recognize, where's Mark at? Mark Jurisic. We ran side by side, really close call about getting elected. Our membership was split in half. I just inched it away. We said no matter what, we both had there's needs that need to go forward for our members. And he came to me, he says, we have to push to get a training center. And Mark has been working on this for 20 years. No, that's the inside joke. For the last decade. That's the inside joke. Anyway, for the last decade, he has been looking, researching. Pat Bolin. Pat Bolin, where are you, Pat? Pat, come on up here. I want you recognized. Pat Bolin is the National Vice President, ILWU Canada. They have a training center, which this is modeled after. They have it up there. Canada, if you see, they're on the move. They're moving through rail, and they're circumventing work from us. Sorry, brother, but they're working to get work also. And it's because of people like the ILWU up there, we learned from them that these ports, these viable ports, have to get out in front. And that includes labor getting out in front and working together as partners with our legislators and the state, local, and we have a great partnership down here. Everybody down here works as a team. We've all been working as a team. And we're coaches, Gary and I. And that's our attitude. And that's where we take our membership. And that's our mindset. So if you have the mind concept, you're going to be with us. And we're going to be with you. Now I want to thank you, Mark, for rolling up your sleeves, because that's what we do. We roll up our sleeves and we go to work and we move this cargo. We are the reliable workforce. We have been reliable from day one. You get all that bad press, all you press out there, hear me out. This is reliable. The West Coast is moving cargo. Bring it back over here. That contract's going to be settled at one point or another. They're working right now. That's why we don't have any of our international officers here. They're working right now to get a contract. So let's not be worried about that. Let's bring the cargo back where it needs to be in Southern California, because we're going to move it. We move half of it through these nations. We're going to continue to move that cargo. We are reliable. The last thing I want to say, as a coach, they always tell you, leave it better than when you have it. We have this workforce training center. We're leaving it better. Gary, handing it off to you. God bless ILW and Southern California, and thank you. God bless our legislators and all the port authorities. Thank you very much.
Thank you to Ramon for those remarks, and I just want to take a second to acknowledge Ramon and his leadership. As he mentioned, he is in his final days in office, and it's been a great 3 years getting to work with Ramon and the rest of the ILW leadership. And Ramon, thank you for that. This would not be here without you, so thank you. And Ramon talked about team and how we have to work together and we partner together. And one of our partners in this has been the Pacific Maritime Association. PMA, as the employer association, has worked with us in some of the very first conversations that Mark Jursic and I had was also with the PMA, thinking about the training and the training that the PMA provides and make sure that the PMA has a world-class facility. And they've been a partner with us through this and will continue to be even as we get through this project and to the day when we have individuals training here. So with that, I'd like to introduce Vice President of the PMA, Chad Lindsay. Chad.
Good morning. Ramon, that was a tough one to follow, but inside joke is I'm always following that guy, so. It's a pleasure to be with you today and mark this important milestone on behalf of Pacific Maritime Association. Thank you to the governor and the state legislators for the support of this project. The ports of LA and Long Beach are America's premier gateway for international trade. Millions of Americans rely on this complex and other West Coast ports to access the goods and products we rely on a daily basis and to share our exports with the world. A skilled, trained workforce is essential to the long-term health of our ports and our entire supply chain. The state-of-the-art Good Movement Training Campus will be the first of its kind in this nation, helping keep West Coast ports competitive, efficient, and sustainable by offering hands-on training to local longshore workers and others in the goods movement industry. These upskill and reskill programs will prepare workers for the jobs of the future, providing the specialized training they need to keep pace with evolving technologies and equipment in this fast-changing industry. Strong ports are critical to a vibrant economy. The Goods Movement Training Campus will help this economic engine thrive for the future while embracing new advances in environmental responsibility. PMA is proud to partner with the ILW and the Port of LA and Long Beach to support this cutting-edge new resource. I certainly echo everybody's comments today and all the people that are involved in getting this done, but I do have to say some special thanks to Gene Soroka and Aveen Sharma for their vision and persistence. I think we've been talking about this for about 6 or 7 years. To the Council 1-5 for their unyielding support of our future training sites, Mr. McCosker and especially Anna Dragan. And to our partners at the ILW, Mark Jursic, it was said before, but for your dedication to this project, and for Ramon for the 3 years of leadership you just provided us. So, thank you.
Thank you very much, Chad. Let's give it up again to our labor and industry partners. All right. Well, now we turn our attention to our port authorities, and if you look at that banner there behind me, you can see what this project has brought together. A tremendous historic collaboration. And it's my pleasure now to introduce to you the president of the Long Beach Board of Harbor Commissioners, Sharon Weissman.
Thank you. Thank you. It's great to be here today. You know, I want to thank you all for coming, and I listened to Assemblymember Gibson, and he mentioned checks and balances. We are always look for balance here at the Port of Long Beach, but I particularly want to thank our senators and assembly members for the checks. So it is an honor to be here today to recognize the support from the state of California for what is an incredibly significant project. We're here in the middle of the nation's leading port complex, one that's always moving forward, always being enhanced and improved. And the Goods Movement Training Campus will be yet another major step forward. I'm happy to say that I have, as has Commissioner Lowenthal, visited the Workforce Training Campus in Vancouver, and it was amazing. And we are so very eager to get our training campus built here. It will have a focus on achieving operational excellence, It'll be crucial in securing the continued competitiveness of these ports by providing the absolute best training for our workforce. It will benefit the workers of the ports, the communities around the ports, the companies that operate here. It will benefit the state of California and the nation's entire supply chain. Cargo that comes through these two ports goes to every state in the nation, and in fact, every congressional district. We value our partnership and our collaboration with the state, with the City of Long Beach, the City of Los Angeles, the ILWU, the PMA, and of course the Port of Los Angeles. And this collaboration allows us to move forward on this very much needed project. You can see that support and the cooperation here today with all these organizations and parties represented is what will make this a success. On behalf of the Board of Long Beach Harbor Commissioners, we're very thankful to the state of California and all our local legislators for the pledge of significant funding of $110 million for this project. It is a necessary project and one these two ports cannot afford not to build. The investment in this training campus is a high priority, and it will bring huge dividends to these ports and our entire community for many, many years to come. We're thankful to our partners, the International Longshore and Warehouse Union, for identifying the vision and the need for this campus and working with us to make sure it comes to fruition. We also commend the Pacific Maritime Association for its continued hard work and support to keep this moving. I thank you very much, and now I'm going to present Councilmember McCosker with his first pin for the Port of Long Beach, now that he represents the port. You're welcome, Councilman. Thank you.
Thank you, President Weissman. Appreciate that. You know, if you look at the route of the California ports, at the end of the day, we are landlord ports. The way we are chartered and the law prescribes, we are a landlord and we have tenants that operate. But both ports have far exceeded that original construct of just being a landlord. And in Los Angeles, we've been working through different programs and initiatives that, again, go beyond the mandate that we have. And we've not been able to do that without our Harbor Commission. And our Harbor Commission has been a strong supporter of us. Speaking on the workforce side, has been a strong supporter of the work that I've been doing on workforce development. And while we're here today, and looking out and I see Wilmington right in front of me, there's no better a person to speak on behalf of our Harbor Commission than Commissioner Lucia Moreno-Linares. Commissioner.
Gracias, Avin. Muy buenos días a todos ustedes. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us in Wilmington. As I sat here and listened attentively to what everyone was saying, my mind did not wander because you were all interesting, but I was listening to the noise of the work that's happening at the port, and I'm seeing the trains going by and the ships going by, and at the same time watching the seagulls. There is so much always happening at our port. It is a combination, just like what's happening here today, to see our electeds, leadership, the port people, all of us here working together. When we work together, we achieve things like what is being proposed here, what has been funded here, and it's incredible. So I'm really excited. Ramon, I am also in my last day, so this is probably the bow on my term as a commissioner, so it's really exciting to be able to say this. So once again, good morning. As a resident of Wilmington, since my childhood, I want to say that this is an exciting day for what it represents for our local communities and the future of our ports. Wilmington is a working class town with a largely Hispanic population that has been historically underserved and over-impacted by our two ports. Over the past 20 years, our ports have made great strides in reducing those impacts. As a harbor commissioner since 2017, I've had the privilege to see firsthand their investment in clean air and community engagement initiatives that are making a difference in our surrounding harbor area. In the same 2 decades, the Port of Los Angeles has also transformed large parcels of land between marine terminals and our community into beautiful public waterfront space, eliminating long-standing physical and visual barriers. And I don't know how many of you noticed when you were driving up here, I didn't get lost because I come to this area a lot. I highly recommend you keep on driving. Marina Cafe, we come there to have breakfast. It's a beautiful little gem here. But you also pass some green space, and I bring my dog to walk there, and I don't have to worry about rushing traffic. So really, really a lot of work has gone into transforming where it is possible to transform and make it amenable for everyone. But even with those barriers removed, a person seldom sees the port workforce from our public waterfront because of the enormity of cargo operations. Because of that, it's always been a struggle for young people growing up in the shadow of this huge complex to know about the variety of jobs that exist right here next to where they live. A goods movement training campus will help reveal those job opportunities to our community stakeholders. This campus will serve as another public access point to our ports, a gateway to educate people about our industry workforce and train them for jobs across our good movement ecosystem. This vision is a milestone forward in our efforts to elevate the quality of life for the people of LA, Long Beach, and across the region. And for that, I want to thank and commend Governor Newsom, the state senators, and assembly members here today for your leadership, for funding support of this game-changing initiative. It's tax dollars, but we all contribute to that base. Bringing some of that back here to create good jobs, to create opportunity for people who have to transition as jobs disappear, an opportunity to learn a new skill, and to be able to get that training right here next to where those jobs are going to be created. Wonderful idea. Dave Arian is smiling. Thank you very much for being here. Muchas gracias.
It's most fitting to have our final 2 speakers as who they are. You know, you can have the vision, you can have the funding, and to Ramon's point, you can have people that will roll up your sleeves, but it requires leadership, and it requires leadership to put that all together. And for us in Los Angeles, we have Gene Soroka. Thanks to Gene, we've been able to move ahead on areas that I said are far beyond what a port authority is required to do. Thanks to Gene, we've been able to move forward. And any time we move forward on this campus, I've never felt like I did not have his complete support in what we are doing. He's been a true champion for the Port of Los Angeles. He's been a strong advocate for the work we do locally, state, and federal, and there's much more work to do, and I'm confident that we will succeed with this project thanks to Gene's leadership. And with that, Gene Soroka.
Okay, we're almost home. I'm the second to the last today. Just 2 thoughts after saying thank you to the governor, to the legislators, the leadership of our elected officials, and so many others in labor and the ports that have done all the work to get us here today. 2 thoughts. 1, and I see Joe Gatlin in the audience, had the privilege of saying hello to him earlier. This training center, there's a long way to get from where we're at here today to this. But this training center in our hearts, our minds, and our strategy is meant for everyone in the community. And we talk a lot today about the ILWU and trying to prepare for the future, but we also owe you a deep debt of gratitude in another way. It's because of your brand that others will come here for opportunity. Whether it's the kid riding the bike to school saying, I want to be a part of this somehow. Walking in, talking to a counselor who says, this is what this training campus can do for you. To the person of my vintage that needs that last mile to be able to get there and have the skills necessary to go earn a paycheck for their families, and then everybody in between. But it's your brand that's going to be able to do that for us, so we thank you very much. Being there for everybody is a work in progress. I don't know what it's going to look like. It could be that small business that wants to help us train. It could be that small family-run concern that doesn't know how to do business with the ports but is going to get in there because of leadership like Joe's and others that introduce us and get us put together. And if you're of my vintage, you remember what it was like going to the shopping mall. You always had that anchor store, that anchor tenant, and that's what the ILWU is. They're the anchor tenant, 15,000 strong today, 18, 20, 25 tomorrow is what we hope. But there, because of that brand and that anchor tenancy, we're going to get traffic through this facility, and it's going to be able to show others what great opportunities lie here in goods movement, supply chain, transportation, and right here at home to do your job. The second thing it does is what today really is it's an invitation. And that invitation just went out, thanks to all of you, to the private sector to come and join us. Because while this $110 million is absolutely the foundation of how this goods movement training campus starts, the port has put up 20 acres of property, $40 million, subject to Harbor Commission approval and all standards that are necessary. The PMA announced not too long ago they were going to put up $15 million towards this campus. So 110, 150, 165. And that's only the start, Chad. We know that. We're going to keep working on it. But it's also the invitation to the other private sector companies, the people who make that machinery, who build those trucks, who have the capabilities of sharing not only their own capital, but in-kind investments of that machinery so we can get trained up on it. We can learn how to run it, and we can really accelerate what we're going to deliver to the workforce so they can get that out there on the job and do the work. So those are the two things. Thanks for being that great anchor for us and all the work you do every day. And private sector, our door's open for you now. The lights are on. We got a big spread of food. The drinks are chilled in the fridge. Come join us and invest with us. Thank you all very much. Couldn't do it without you.
Thank you, Gene. You know, I just want to follow up on Aveen's introduction of Gene. He talked about the funding being important, the vision being important, but you're right. Leadership is what really moves things forward and crosses the football across the goal line. And it's been said that true leadership is not just doing things right, it's doing the right things. And it's because all of us together have agreed that this is the right thing, even if it meant going outside our traditional jurisdictional bounds, even if it's going outside our traditional business models. It's this leadership that has brought us to this day. And our leader at the Port of Long Beach is someone that all of you know very well. From his days as a harbor commissioner in Long Beach, he's been advocating for this. So he's been part of this vision for many, many years. Maybe not as long as 20 years like Mark Jurczyk. And by the way, Mark, if you've been at it for 20 years, you probably started when you were 5, right? But the Port of Long Beach Executive Director, my pleasure to introduce to you Mario Cordero.
Thank you, Noel. What a lineup here today. It's a better lineup than my Los Angeles Dodgers, I must say. We have a lot of heavy hitters here, and I guess I'm here on the cleanup spot. But on a more serious note, one of the common denominators that you heard everybody speak about a vision, and the person who first expressed this vision, Dave Arian, who many of you know. And I recall Dave calling me many years ago about this concept. So I think at the end of the day, en fin del día, the ILWU has to be commended about its determination and the wherewithal to make this happen. Because it was their push and their consistent movement to make this happen for the San Pedro Bay complex. So I think with all due respect, as I was listening to the speakers, and Aveen, you had a great introduction when you mentioned Dave, because this was something Dave was insistent, was persistent, and he brought the two ports together. I remember Bonnie and I had lunch with Gene and Dave Arian, and we talked about this. So here we are today. And I want to say also, for all of us here today, the common denominator that we all aspire to is that this is the greatest, the most significant, the most strategic container port complex in the United States. And it's for us to look at this as a way in which this is what happens when the ports collaborate. We do great things. We could talk about the competitiveness of our East Coast ports, our Gulf ports, but let me tell you one thing that is ever more important for the San Pedro Bay complex to work together. Because as we move forward for the gateway of the future, both with regard to operations and regard to our mutual environmental quests, this will continue to be the most significant, strategic, important gateway for this country. So I would like to thank the Port of Los Angeles for their collaborative efforts in moving forward and making this happen as the state-of-the-art training center. And again, an example of what happens when two ports collaborate and start a conversation and put this into action, and as Ramon said, roll up our sleeves. I can represent to you that the Port of Long Beach is very excited about the evolvement of this concept, stemming from a conversation a few years ago and where we're at today. Workforce development at its best, training for our labor partners. Education, outreach, workforce development are the very heart of the values of the Port of Long Beach. And the Port of Los Angeles, Port of Long Beach Training Campus is absolutely aligned with our goal to achieve success in one of many careers paths for the goods movement industry. This project will further our mutually respective goal to achieve zero emission operations for terminal equipment and trucks and the relevant skill force for the labor force, the relevant skill set for the labor force. This project is the key to the future of the economy for the state of California and this nation, and what we do together to move the needle with regard to zero emissions and climate change. And last, I would like to say that when we continue to invest in the future of our goods movement force, that this port complex continues to balance the supply chain challenges while accelerating the deployment of zero emission technologies and furthering the framework of 24/7 operations. We have a responsibility to support training that will create jobs, not eliminate jobs at this complex. And again, to combat climate change, enhance cargo velocity and safety for all dock workers, and maintain our position as one of the region's leading economic engines. And again, I'd like to thank all the partners who are here today, who worked for this vision, and I'm so excited to see one day when we have this completed model, the state-of-the-art training facility. And the last thing I'll say as we close today, again, I want to thank the state legislature, our local representatives, our commissions, my colleague, Gene Soroka, because again, this will be a state-of-the-art facility. And last, I think I said last 3 times already. And I want to make sure I say Mayor Rex Richardson. Actually, Lena, you know my sense of humor. I recall when I made that mistake one time when I first became executive director. I was introducing our mayor, Robert Garcia, at an event. And I don't know why I said, and now let me introduce Mayor Eric Garcetti. And I just got this job. I was like 2 months into the job. So Mayor Garcia came up to the podium and said, I want to thank Gene Soroka for that kind introduction. All right, so let's celebrate now. Thank you so much.